Welcome back to the welcome back to the Casual Proverbs podcast. We're reading through Proverbs in Hebrew, translating it, and then just talking about it. Let's read verse 6 here. Last time we did verses 4 and 5, and some parts of Proverbs it's easy for us to do it verse by verse because every verse is like a saying. But for
Mm,
some parts of Proverbs, you kind of have to put a few verses together because it's not
mm.
like verse by verse.
Yeah.
So let's see what verse 6 says, and we'll go from there. Lahavin mashal u malitza divrei chachamim wa chidotham. So this is to understand a proverb and a mocking poem or an elusive saying, and words of the wise and riddles.
Mm,
So, yeah, and riddles. So,
mm.
um, uh, well, I think this may be riddles of them, their riddles. Let me see back
Ah.
here. Uh, yeah, yeah. So, and their riddles. So it's Lahavin mashal umalitza divrei chachamim wachidotham. So to understand a proverb or a parable
Mm,
and a mocking poem or an elusive saying, and words of the wise and their riddles.
mm, mm.
So,
That's interesting. That's interesting.
yes, so we see that. So I think that verse 6, clearly it goes with what comes before it. So last
Mm,
time it says, "Let the wise hear and let them add
mm,
persuasiveness, and let those who understand acquire guidance." To
mm,
understand a proverb or a parable,
mm,
and a mocking poem or elusive saying, you could
mm,
translate this, and
mm.
words of the wise and their riddles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we see a few different types of things here. You have the proverb or the parable.
Mm,
Mashal is from the verb that means to be like or to liken. So it's like you're
mm,
likening something or comparing something.
mm,
So a parable may sometimes be a good or a comparison, a wise
ah,
comparison. A parable may be a
mm,
good translation of mashal. Malitza, this looks like it's related to a word that has to do with mocking, to mock.
mm,
And so this could be a mocking poem.
mm,
And that kind of makes sense whenever you consider sayings that teach you a lesson from learning
mm,
from somebody who made a mistake. So maybe it's
mm.
something like this, like the tortoise and the hare, to give a modern example. The idea is you're mocking the hare because he thought he was so good he could just quickly win, but he got distracted. So slow and
Mm.
steady wins the race. So that would be kind of like a mocking poem, I think. But it can also
Ah,
refer to an elusive saying, a
mm,
saying that is unclear as to what its meaning is, kind of like a riddle. Though
mm,
mocking poem may be a better translation of this one.
mm.
And then, of course, you have here the mocking poems, and it looks like it's the sorry, not mocking poem, the riddles.
Riddles.
So it looks like the riddles are the riddles of the wise here, the
Yeah.
chachamim.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems to be the
Uh,
case. Yes. Mm,
so Proverbs is telling us that there's something important about understanding the parables, the mocking poems, and the riddles. Even
mm, yeah.
maybe we may have the impression without Proverbs today that riddles are something, particularly the riddles, right? It's like,
Mm.
okay, that's just something we read our kids before they go to sleep at night.
Something
It's
for
it's
fun. Yeah.
entertainment, but we may not see the value in them. But Proverbs
Mm.
is telling us to understand these riddles of the wise.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah,
think
yeah.
about those verses, Jimmy?
Yeah, well, actually it reminds me something. Um like I think in our time like we I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm not trying to say like bad things about anyone. But a lot of times we think we are smart enough and clever enough to not to listen to others. But it seems the proverb is suggesting us to like pay attention to people who are wiser than you. Listen to what they say, not just always listen to your own opinions and ideas. Of course, just if we just look at this verse, apparently he's put this verse in the entire context is telling you that read the Proverbs and you will understand the people the words of the wise and their riddles. But I think we need to even pay attention to look around our neighbor and see if there's any wise people among them and pay attention to them and listen to them. I'm benefited a lot from listening to people around me who are more mature than me, who has more experience than me, whether in terms of like in my job or in other things, and spiritual things, and all kinds of things. I think listening to other people's opinions, not just opinions, like listening to other people's maybe it's just their experiences. Like they may just tell you their own experience, the kind of wisdom they've drawn from their experiences. But they may not trying to teach you a lesson or something like that. But you can always learn something from them. So I think like a lot of people like to hang out and have fun, but I think like we can definitely use this type of time and like try to like find a good company and find a good company and try to learn things like try to learn things from people who are wiser than us, who has more experience than us, and just listen. We don't like I don't need to say anything to show how smart I am. That's not necessary because like if I can learn something from them. I remember I was reading Justin Martyr's dialogue with Trifle, and
Good book that was. It's my favorite
uh,
book.
Trifle came to Justin. He said that I was taught to go to people who dress like you because philosophers dress in a certain way. I was told to go to people who dress like you so that I can always have a dialogue and learn something. I think that's the attitude we should have. Like that's something we should do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100% agreed
yeah.
as a Justinite.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
just annoyed.
yeah, it's not like and Proverbs says this later, it's not that company is bad, but it's that bad company is bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We want to
yeah.
surround ourselves with people who will give us who will recite the parables, the mocking poems,
Mm.
and the riddles to keep us thinking about these things.
Yeah, yeah.
I also kind of wonder what exactly Proverbs is getting at here. Is it saying that Proverbs will help you understand these parables, mocking
Yeah,
poems,
yeah,
and
yeah.
riddles?
I think that's the yeah.
Or do you think that it could also be more general that it's saying we need to understand them?
Well, I think
Because
we
if you
need
think it that way,
mm,
then you could extrapolate this to it's not just about Proverbs. It's
mm,
generally, anytime you find these good parables of the wise and these mocking poems of the
mm.
wise and the riddles, we should pay attention to them. Like
Yeah,
books outside of Proverbs,
mm,
is
yeah.
what I'm
Well,
thinking of, like other wisdom literatures.
I think it's that the book of Proverbs is helping us to understand other sayings too, not just understand the sayings within the book. But the
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
if we
it's
learn the book, it helps us to understand other like sayings. Like
so
I said,
Proverbs is kind of like it should be our starting point for understanding wisdom literature
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah, this type of thing. Yes, right,
Yeah,
right.
so it would be wise then to study the other wisdom literature after going through Proverbs. You
Yeah,
think?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
kind of get that impression. I kind of get the impression
yeah.
Proverbs is like it's like the starting point for getting into wisdom literature and maybe the Bible in general.
That's right. Oh.
It may not be a bad book to learn in general. I mean,
Well,
I get the
actually.
impression Proverbs is the book we should be learning growing up, really.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, as in terms of like training like life skills and like everything. But actually, you know
Yeah,
what?
I kind of feel like it helps set a framework for you for which to have
Yeah,
the discipline to study
right, right,
other books
right.
of the Bible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also like the discipline is still like is still the count is still within the context. So somewhat the discipline also helps you to understand the wise sayings, the riddles, the mocking poems, and the parables. Like the discipline also is a part of it. The discipline helps you to understand these things. Because if you look at the context, it seems that discipline is still in view. Like it's not gone. So it's still like these things come together. Like they're not separated. They're not irrelevant to each other. They come together. But I also think that the most important thing is that um, a Mokum poem, wisdom, riddles, and all these type of thing, you can find all of these things in the sayings of Jesus, in the Gospels. And I think
That's true,
um,
isn't it?
if we have proper discipline and read more gospels, like read the gospels more often and listen to what Jesus is saying and try to put it into practice and make whatever Jesus says as a part of our discipline. I think that will help us to really learn like even better. Like that it's not just about like learning a kind of life skill, but it's like spiritual practice. It's helping us in our salvation. It helps us to uh, for our soul to grow, for our character to grow like more like Christ. I think that's more like if you made that connection, I think that's a very very profound connection.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's verse 6.